Hey there, drone fans. Rick here again from Drone Valley. In today's clip, I'd like to cover the top 5 accessories that I feel should be part of every pilot's kit out there to help protect your Mavic 2 drone. Now, all of the accessories I'm going to discuss today are ones that I use myself. I've tested them extensively. I've talked about a few of them on the channel before, but over the last couple of weeks, I've gotten a ton of questions from you guys about what accessories I recommend for the Mavic 2, which ones do I use on a regular basis. So I thought I'd put a clip together and at least talk about these 5, because these are ones that I take with me every time I go out to fly, and they really do help protect my Mavic 2 quad. And I'll start off with the most obvious one in front of me. It's a landing pad. And I know that's a bit of a controversial accessory for some people because they feel like they want to hand launch and hand catch. But my recommendation to any new pilot out there is to pick up a good quality landing mat, because even if you're one of the people that like to hand launch and hand catch, there are times where you may hand launch that drone and then the wind kicks up, and all of a sudden when it's coming back down, it's moving all over the place, and you may need to land that drone. And a lot of times you're in environments where you've got tall grass or wet ground, and the last thing you want to do is put that drone down in kind of a marshy environment. So having a landing mat, the first thing it does is give you a place to land that you know is dry and you know it's stable. The other thing that's super important is I think it lets people around you know that you're flying a quad. And that's important because if you're bringing it in to land, having a place on the ground that's designated as the landing zone means everybody can keep a nice distance away from it. It's no different really than when you go diving. I used to be a diver off the coast of New Jersey, and we put a dive flag up every time I went down to let other boaters know that there's somebody underwater. This is kind of the same thing for when you're flying your quad. So even if you're a hand launcher and hand catcher, I still think it's a great accessory to have in your kit. And when you're flying in really inclement weather, like in the winter time, landing in the snow is not a great idea for any of the quads out there. So having something like this you can quickly throw on the ground and have it expand and give you a nice, flat, dry place to land your quad, to me is a basic accessory, should be in everybody's kit. Now the one I like is this one. It's a 75 centimeter kit, and it's different than a lot of landing mats out there because it's got a ring in the outside that's spring metal. I'm holding it tight because once I let go, it's going to spring open. But in the kit, you also get some reflective stickers which allow you to stick those on the top of it, so when the drone is coming down, the under lights will illuminate those and make it really easy for you to find that center point. It'll also help with your return to home, precision landing. It comes with 3 stakes as well, and that's important if you're out on a really windy day or if you're on a beach. You can put those stakes through the ground and that'll hold the landing mat exactly where it was. And again, that helps with the return to home precision landing. Now the mat itself, I'm going to open it in a second. You can see that it springs open pretty quickly, and it's a good size mat. It's 75 centimeters, so it's perfect for most of the drones that are out there today. So if you're flying some of the smaller drones, it's plenty big. The only drones that I wouldn't use this with are the larger drones like an Inspire, but even my Phantom 4 series, I land on this thing all the time, so it's perfectly fine. It's got 2 sides to it, an orange side and a blue side on the back, and it just allows you to put down a landing area that will be contrasting the background. So if you're out in green grass, the orange side is perfect. If you're out with maybe a sandy environment, you may lose this from the drone's perspective, flip it over and have the blue side showing. So it's just a great way to get started, and I think it's a wonderful accessory for every flyer to have in their kit. The next thing has to do with protecting your drone when you're traveling, and that's super important. Now I've got 2 travel kits here, and these are all scuffed up because these are ones that I use. I mean, I'm not kidding you here. These are the actual ones from my kit. I like having separate kits for both the controller and the drone because I travel a lot, and having 2 separate sort of customized cases allows me to quickly throw these in a suitcase and then I can pack around them. Now I have a hard case as well that I take out when I'm doing local trips because I can throw it in the back of the car and everything goes in that case. But when I'm traveling, I like to have a split kit like this, and these kits are custom made to handle your controller, and if you've got a short cable, that'll fit inside there as well. But what's really nice is the kit itself, the case, has this sort of custom foam in the bottom that'll hold the remote controller exactly in position. It's got cutouts on top to close this over to joysticks and not have to worry about taking those off. You can even use one of the joystick protectors on top of this if you want to for extra protection and close this down and still be able to fit it in there. So these 2 are sold as a kit. I like them because they're, again, very durable. They're crush proof. They've got a really nice zipper assembly on it. You've got a little loop here if you want to hang it off a carabiner in your backpack, and it just gives you a great way to carry your quad and your controller. The quad case is exactly the same type of custom cutout. So I've got room in the top where this gentle little knob up here pushes down on the quad and keeps it in the case. Some of the cases I tested were bigger than the quad, and that may seem like a good thing because you can stuff a couple extra accessories in there, but the problem is if there's extra room inside the case and it's in a bag and you jumble around, it's going to move that quad around all over inside your case, and it could cause damage to the quad. So I like the fact that this is again, custom made specifically for the Mavic 2, and it nestles down in there nice and securely. And when I close this top, it's not going anywhere. It's definitely locked in. It also has the same loop on the back again for carabiners. You can hang it off your backpack. It's got a nice little handle on it if you want to carry it with that. So let me take a look at the quad inside. I've got my Mavic 2 Pro here. Now I fly both the Pro and the Zoom, and I've got two sets of these cases that I use for both of those quads. The first thing you'll probably notice here has to do with the gimbal protection. That's the next thing I want to talk about. So there are two things I use with my gimbal. The one is a gimbal lock. Now when you buy the product, it comes with a complicated gimbal lock where it's got this flap underneath it that you got to slide underneath, and you got to get it just right to slap it on there. I mean, they work okay. If that's what you're using today and you're comfortable with it, stick with it. This is a one-piece unit where it basically just unhooks like that and it's off and ready to go. So it's just a little bit easier to use. To put it back on, you just slide it down over the camera like this. You clip it in the front, and once it's clipped in, you just slide it back and it locks closed. The only thing I'll caution you about is the plastic is really rigid, so you have to be a little bit gentle when you pull this guy out. They're pretty durable, but I've had people break these when they pull them off the front. But I like that single piece because when I'm out in the field and it's dark and I'm having a hard time putting that gimbal lock back on, it's just a pain in the neck, and I find myself putting it back in the case, and I shouldn't admit this, putting it back in the case without the gimbal lock on and then dealing with that when I get back home. But this one in the field just makes it super easy to actually attach it to the quad. The other thing I'll talk about is a front sunscreen, this guy. And this is sort of a way of helping to knock down some of the sun that comes in from the side. So it's a bit of like a pair of sunglasses, or if you've got a baseball cap on, to knock down that glare from the sun so your eyes get a better view of what's in front of you. This does a really good job of knocking down sort of illumination from the side. So if you're flying alongside, the sun's to my right and I'm flying this direction, a lot of times you'll get sun wash across your lens and it can wash out the image. This gives you a really nice way to sort of put those blinders up to keep that side sun, if you will, off that lens. It just gives you a lot more control when you're flying. You can get a lot closer to the sun in this side without having a wash across the lens. And it couldn't be easier to put on like I showed you a second ago. You basically just put these two fingers in the front like this and then slide it back and it clips on, and that's it. And it'll stay up there in the air. It doesn't impede your camera movements either side. It doesn't block your camera, so you still have a really nice view either side on the front, but it really does help on those sunny days to knock down a lot of that side glare. All right, the other thing I want to talk about next is sort of landing protection, because one of the challenges I've got with the quad, and this is something I've complained about with all of the folding quads that DJI has made up to this point, is that your clearance, let me get this out of the way, your clearance between the camera and your landing is tiny. I mean, there's almost no clearance underneath there at all. And the challenge is if you're hand catching, that's great. You're not going to get near the ground. But if you're landing this thing, you're putting that camera down on the ground. And even if you're using a landing mat like I showed you a minute ago, the weight of the Mavic is going to push down on that landing mat, especially in tall grass, and that'll come in contact with the landing mat or any surface you're landing on unless it's rigid. And the challenge is if you power up your quad and that's hitting the mat, you're going to get all kinds of errors during power on self-test. So I've been looking for solutions to sort of lift this off the ground just a little bit to give me a little extra peace of mind. And there's actually two solutions that'll do that for you. One of them is a folding solution and one of those is a rigid solution. What I have on here now are the Polar Pro group. Put these together, and these are wonderful. It's called the Retract landing gear, and this basically just folds down. Now you saw that I had that on there when I put it in the case, so you can fold this up and it'll still fit in the case. This is what it looks like. So it's a kit of 4 of these, and they basically attach by friction onto the legs, and then you can fly. And you can see how much more clearance I've got. That's double or triple the clearance that I had before. So whenever I'm flying, landing mat on the ground, take off from the landing mat, land on the landing mat, and have these landing extensions on the unit. Now the rigid ones, you have to take off and put on every time. So these are a little bit more work, but they're less expensive. A lot of guys like these because they feel like the folding ones may fold on them. I've never had a problem with the folding gear. I've landed hundreds of times with these. I've never had them fold up on me, but some people like the rigid ones, so we have these as well. Those were the original kit I used until I tried these Polar Pros and immediately fell in love with them, and that's all I've been using ever since. So I like these an awful lot. All right, the last thing I want to talk about is battery protection, because these LiPo batteries are expensive and they're somewhat dangerous. LiPo batteries in general are fairly stable devices, but if you abuse them, if you get them hot, you get them wet, you damage the case, you can have all kinds of trouble on your hands because the LiPo chemicals that are inside, that lithium polymer, gets together and you can have all kinds of issues where that'll burst into flames. And if you've never seen a LiPo fire, they burn incredibly hot and they burn forever until the chemicals are exhausted. You can't put them out. They're very difficult to put out. So Heaven forbid you have a problem with your batteries in your car when you're traveling in an airplane, you're going to have some really serious issues on your hands. So a battery bag like this keeps your battery protected. It also helps to keep all the debris from getting out inside the connections, because you've got these exposed connections on the front. And if you just take this and throw this in a backpack or throw it in your suitcase, I guarantee these connections are going to pick up fuzz and dust and dirt, which is going to cause issues with the connections down the road. They could short out these contacts and damage the battery or shorten the life of the battery. So I like the fact that I can throw it in a case like this and know that it's protected. Now, if you want to take it to its next step, you can add these battery guards on the front. Now, these are custom-made little rubber stoppers, and I normally use these. I actually pulled it off because I was just charging the battery. But you get, in the kit we sell, you get 3 of these, which are for the batteries, and you get 1 for the quad. So this actually fits on the connections in the quad. These 3 fit on the front of the battery. You just basically slide it over like this, and it protects those contacts on the front. Now, this is super important if you're going to fly with your batteries, because most airlines today are now aware of quads, and they may very well, if you're bringing a quad on or you go through security, they may ask you to pull it out to see how you've protected your batteries. One of the things you have to do going through security is ensure that those contacts can't get shorted out under any circumstances. Now, you could, be clever and just take some electrical tape and stick it across there, but then you're adding all kinds of sticky stuff to the batteries. These take care of that problem for you 100%. They show the people at security that you've taken the precautions, you're a responsible flyer, and there's no way that battery can be shorted. Then you can slide it right in the battery bag, and that way if you get to the airport, it takes you 30 seconds to pull all your batteries out, and boom, you whip through the line. The other thing about the battery bag that's important is that it's a fire safety bag, which means it's not going to stop a LiPo fire, but if one breaks out, it'll minimize the amount of damage that can happen from that. I like that an awful lot. And I'm a little bit conservative too, in that I charge my batteries in the LiPo bag. So what I'll do is I'll fold that tongue down like that. I'll slide it out enough to make the connection to those ports, and then I'll slide it inside the bag. Now, I know I'm not going to have problems, but heaven forbid, while I'm charging, I'm flipping it upside down actually. Heaven forbid, when I'm charging these batteries, something goes haywire inside there and these things burst into flame because they overheat it. I know it's inside the bag and it'll minimize any of the damage that's going to happen. So that's sort of how I handle the batteries. And that was really it. Those are the top 5. Now, I know I went through this pretty quickly. I want to make sure that you got all the information you need. So if I've missed anything or you have questions about any of these accessories, drop them in the comments below and I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. These are the ones that I recommend if you're going to go out tomorrow and start buying accessories for your quads, because there are tons of accessories on the market. A lot of them look like these and sort of don't work like these. So you got to be a little bit careful about what you pick up. But out of the gate, I would start off with a good set of cases, a landing mat, battery protection, and some type of heightening kit, if you will, for your quad to get it up off the ground to give you the extra clearance that I discussed a minute ago. So that's pretty much it for today. I really enjoy putting these kind of clips together, and I hope you guys are finding value in these, because I'm flying every day with my quads, and I'm learning things out there in the field that I want to relate to you guys, because there's a lot of new flyers that are watching the channel, and they're not sure what they should be doing or what they should be buying for their quads. These are ones I can recommend with confidence because I use them myself, and I've tested all of them. Now, if you want to pick any of these up, I'm sure you can find them all over the internet, like I say every time, but if you want to support the channel, I've got links below for all 5 of these accessories. You buy them from us, we ship immediately. I'll get it there faster than Amazon can, and we stand behind everything we sell on the website. So I don't want to make this a commercial, but I want you to feel comfortable that if you buy a Drone Valley product, we're going to be here tomorrow to take care of any questions or problems you've got. So that's pretty much it for today. So I hope you find value in these clips. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I've been expanding over the last couple of months to include a lot of their high-tech gear, but I've got a ton of drone clips coming as well. We haven't lost sight of the fact that we're a drone channel and we love flying drones. So hit that subscribe button down there. I promise you I've got a lot of exciting content coming this summer that you're not going to want to miss. So thanks again for watching, and until next time, happy flying.